The Psychology of People Who Stay, ****. Have you ever noticed someone who just stays? Not in a dramatic, loyal to the end movie way, but in a quiet, almost gravitational way. The person who remains in the town everyone else left. Who keeps the job long after it stopped being impressive? Who is still there, in the same chair, in the same life, while the world screams that movement is the only proof of life? We call them stagnant. We call them stuck. We whisper that they've settled, that they lack ambition, that they're afraid. But what if staying isn't about fear? What if it's about regulation? This isn't a story about geography or career paths. This is about the internal architecture of a person for whom depth is not found in chasing but in rooting. For them, stability isn't a boring compromise. It's a necessary condition for a nervous system that processes the world on a different frequency. While everyone else is broadcasting, they are receiving. And to receive clearly, you need a fixed antenna. Meet the person who stays. From the outside, their life can look like a flat line, a narrative without plot points. But from the inside, it is a deep, slow excavation. They aren't avoiding the world. They are learning a single square mile of it with a terrifying intimacy. They know the way the light hits the park bench at 4 p.m. in October. They have catalogued the subtle shift in the neighbour's posture that means a bad week. They feel the tectonic plates of their community move years before the earthquake hits the news. This isn't boredom, it's a hypervigilance turned inward, a deep focus on the details everyone else runs past. Pop psychology would gaslight them into believing this is inertia. It would pathologize their contentment as complacency. It would sell them courses on breaking out of their comfort zone, failing to understand that for them, the comfort zone isn't a cage, it's the calibration chamber where their senses work properly. The truth is, their choice to stay is often a direct response to a childhood that felt like a constant low-grade earthquake. Maybe they were the parentified child, the emotional anchor in a chaotic home. Their young nervous system learned that safety wasn't found in new places or new people, but in predictability, in knowing exactly which floorboard creaked, which tone of voice signaled danger, and how to make themselves small and observant. For them, new doesn't equal opportunity, it equals uncalibrated. It is a flood of unknown variables their system must map, and that mapping is exhausting. So they choose the known, they choose the map they've already memorized, where every potential trigger is charted and can be navigated. Their staying is not a lack of courage. It is a sophisticated risk management system for a psyche that calculates emotional turbulence, the way a pilot calculates wind shear. They watch their friends leave their social feeds filled with airports and skyline photos and hashtags about journeys. And for a moment they feel the pressure, the silent screaming question times, "What's wrong with me?" But then they come home, to their space, to their rhythm, to the silence that doesn't feel empty. To them it feels times, full times of recognizable data. Their breathing slows, the static in their mind settles. This is their baseline. This is where they think, feel, and exist without a layer of performance. They aren't choosing a smaller life. They are choosing a life where the volume is turned down low enough for them to hear their own thoughts. And in a culture that confuses noise with vitality, that mistake is easy to make. We see the lack of movement and we diagnose a problem. We don't see the profound internal movement happening below the surface, the slow ripening of insight, the deep weathering of love and loss in one place, the kind of understanding that only comes from watching something change over 20 years, not 20 days. The person who stays has built a container, and they are busy filling it to the brim while the world mistakes the container for a boundary. But here is the first twist, the quiet fracture in this understanding. What if this exquisite calibration, this deep need for a predictable ecosystem, wasn't just a personal temperament? What if it was also a learned defense? A fortress built so well that even the person inside forgot there was a world beyond the walls. The very system that regulates them can also become the architecture of their isolation. The need for the known can quietly morph into a fear of the unknown so total it disguises itself as wisdom, as knowing what really matters. The line between a chosen peace and a prison of one's own making is terrifyingly thin, and it's a line the person who stays walks every single day, believing they are being deliberate, until the day they realize some doors have rusted shut. This is the psychology of people who stay. It begins not as a lack of desire, but as a profound need for a stable emotional frequency. It is the practice of finding infinity in a single, carefully observed square. But the question isn't why they stay, the question is what they are trying to hold on to, and what they might be holding themselves back from. The answer is never about the place. It's always about the psyche, that built a home there stone by stone for reasons it may have forgotten but the body remembers. Asterisk, asterisk. End. Part 1. Asterisk, asterisk. In this, you've built the quiet life. The volume is finally low enough to hear your own thoughts. The world outside mistakes this for stillness, but you know the truth, this isn't emptiness. It's capacity. You've created a container, and you are busy filling it with a depth the rushing world can't perceive. But let's pause here. Let's ask the uncomfortable question. What happens when the container becomes the cage? The human nervous system is a brilliant adapter. It learns what safety feels like: a certain light through a certain window, a predictable rhythm of footsteps in the hall, the specific silence of a familiar room at 2 a.m. It wires itself to that ecosystem, and in doing so it can begin to mistake any times change for danger. Not logical danger, somatic danger. A different grocery store, a new route home, a conversation that veers into unknown emotional territory. These aren't just novelties. To a finely calibrated system, they can feel like a subtle, relentless alarm. Your peace starts to have a cost, and the currency is possibility. This is the hidden contract of the quiet life. You traded chaos for clarity, but you may have also quietly, and without realizing it, traded openness for control. The need for a predictable environment slowly tightens its grip. What began as a preference, I thrive in quiet spaces, can fossilize into a rule, I can only times function in quiet spaces. Your world becomes perfectly regulated and perfectly small. You don't experience this as fear. You experience it as taste, as wisdom. I just know what I like. Drama is unnecessary. I don't do well with unpredictability. These aren't just statements. They are the quiet bricks in a wall you stopped noticing you were building. And here is the plot twist, the psychological truth that changes everything. Asterisk, asterisk. Your deepest comfort zone is often built directly on top of your oldest wound. Asterisk, asterisk. That exquisite need for control, for predictability, for a world that makes no sudden moves. Trace the wiring back. It often leads to a place where the world time suddenly violently unpredictable, where love felt conditional, where safety was unreliable, where you learned that the only way to survive was to become the sole regulator of your entire emotional universe. You didn't just choose a quiet life. You retreated into one. It was a brilliant, necessary survival tactic. You built a sanctuary where the storm could not reach you, but the child who built that sanctuary is not the adult who lives in it. The adult has mistaken the sanctuary for the entire world. The rust on the door isn't a sign of peace. It's a sign of disuse. The fear isn't of the outside world. It's the fear of that inner child, the one still frozen in that old, unpredictable storm being exposed again. So you stay, not just in a place, but in a times posture asterisk. A posture of vigilant self-containment. You call it contentment, and much of it is, but a part of it is a haunting. You are being quietly governed by a ghost who remembers a pain you've intellectually outgrown but somatically still expect. The moment of realization never comes with a crash. It comes with a whisper. It's the day you look at your perfect quiet room and feel for the first time not peace, but a suffocating precision. It's when a friend's spontaneous, messy story of a trip gone wrong doesn't annoy you, it pulls times at you. It's the unsettling longing that strikes when you hear a train in the distance, not because you want to be on it, but because you remember a time when your own heart could still make that sound. It's the understanding that in your quest to never feel lost, you have made it impossible to be found, even by yourself. This is not a call to burn your life down. It's a call to listen to the whisper. Healing isn't about leaving the container. It's about realizing you are the one who built it, and you can choose to add a window. It's about introducing a tiny, manageable dose of the unknown inside the safe space, a new recipe that might fail. A book in a genre you hate, a 5-minute conversation that ventures beyond the weather. You are not trying to break your nervous system. You are trying to gently, slowly prove to it that not all change is a threat, that the child inside can be safe even if the adult feels a flutter of anxiety, that you can regulate times and explore. The person who stays has a profound strength, a capacity for depth. The next evolution is to turn that depth inward onto the very walls you've built and ask with compassion, what are you still protecting me from, and is it still here, asterisk? The goal is not to become a different person. It is to become an integrated one. To honor the part of you that needs the quiet while making space for the part of you that still hears the distant train. To understand that a truly rich inner life isn't just about cultivating peace within your walls. It's about knowing you could step beyond them, and that you, the regulator, the observer, the deep feeler, would be okay. You built a sanctuary. Now see if you can build a door. So if you see yourself in this, if your quiet world has started to feel a little too quiet, understand this. That restlessness isn't ingratitude, it's growth. It's your present self, finally safe and strong, asking the old walls to breathe. You are not betraying your peace, you are expanding its definition. One whispered yes, one tiny, terrifying, glorious step beyond the known at a time. Part 3. The architecture of the invisible cage. You remember a time when your own heart could still make that sound. It's the understanding that in your quest to never feel lost, you have made it impossible to be found. Even by yourself. This is not a call to burn your life down. It's a call to listen to the whisper. Healing isn't about leaving the container. It's about realizing you are the one who built it, and you can choose to add a window. It's about introducing a tiny, manageable dose of the unknown times inside times the safe space. A new recipe that might fail. A book in a genre you hate. A 5-minute conversation that ventures beyond the weather. You are not trying to break your nervous system. You are trying to gently, slowly prove to it that not all change is a threat. That the child inside can be safe even if the adult feels a flutter of anxiety. That you can regulate times and times explore. The person who stays has a profound strength, the capacity for depth. The next evolution is to turn that depth inward onto the very walls you've built and ask with compassion times, what are you still protecting me from? And is it still here? Asterisk. The goal is not to become a different person, it is to become an integrated one. To honor the part of you that needs the quiet, while making space for the part of you that still hears the distant train. To understand that a truly rich inner life isn't just about cultivating peace within your walls. It's about knowing you could step beyond them and that you, the regulator, the observer, the deep feeler, would be okay. You built a sanctuary. Now see if you can build a door. So if you see yourself in this, if your quiet world has started to feel a little too quiet, understand this. That restlessness isn't ingratitude, it's growth. It's your present self, finally safe and strong, asking the old walls to breathe. You are not betraying your peace. You are expanding its definition. One whispered yes, one tiny, terrifying, glorious step beyond the known at a time. Have you ever felt a strange sense of safety in your own disappointment? As if the world confirming your lowest expectations was in its own way a relief. This is the psychology of the person who masters the preemptive no. Not out of cynicism, but out of a deep somatic memory that hope is often followed by a fall. Their inner world isn't built on pessimism, it's built on a precise self-protective calculus. If you never reach for the thing, you can never lose your grip on it. We meet them as the friend who declines the invitation before it's fully offered. The colleague who outlines why the ambitious project will fail with flawless logic. The partner who hesitates to name a dream, keeping it in the quiet chamber of maybe someday. From the outside it looks like defeatism, a lack of spirit. But from the inside it feels like the most rational form of regulation. It is the nervous system's elegant solution to a history of unpredictable outcomes. Asterisk. Asterisk. Control the narrative by writing the tragic ending first. Asterisk. Asterisk. This is not merely a mindset, it is an architecture, a psychic room built to withstand tremors by never allowing anything fragile inside. Joy, desire, open-ended hope, these are seismic, they threaten the foundation. So the mind becomes a meticulous curator, filtering out possibilities that carry the scent of uncertainty. The result is a profound still safety, and a quiet, echoing emptiness. For a long time this works. The system is flawless. Disappointment becomes a choice, not a surprise. But then a subtle shift begins, a restlessness not with the world, but with the time's sameness, times of the prediction. The safety starts to feel less like a sanctuary, and more like a cell they design themselves. Here is the plot twist. The quiet, earthquake, asterisk, asterisk. The person who is so adept at avoiding disappointment is not afraid of pain. They are terrified of their own capacity. Asterisk, asterisk. They are not guarding against external failure. They are guarding against the internal cataclysm of their own untested potential. The preemptive no is not a shield against the world's rejection. It is a shield against the terrifying question times. What if I am powerful and I have been hiding from myself? Asterisk. The moment of recognition never comes with a fanfare. It arrives in the silence after the automatic no has been uttered. It's the hollow echo of a refusal that cost nothing and gained nothing. It is the visceral understanding that, in their meticulous effort to never be let down by life, they have become the sole author of their own limitation. The walls were built to keep danger out, but they have slowly, imperceptibly become the danger itself. Healing then is not about forced optimism. It is not about chanting affirmations you don't believe. It is about introducing a controlled uncertainty ***. It is about observing the automatic no as it forms that tightness in the chest, that fluent script of why not, and just once leaving a space for air. It's not saying yes, it's saying maybe. It is the practice of distinguishing between a genuine boundary and a fear-based reflex. It is cooking a meal for yourself that might not turn out. It is sending a piece of writing to one person. It is sitting with the terrifying flutter of a possibility without immediately snuffing it out. You are not trying to become a reckless dreamer. You are trying to prove to your own vigilance system that not all unknowns are threats. Some are just unknown. The strength was always in the depth of their perception, in their ability to see endings before they began. The evolution is to turn that profound sight inward onto the very algorithm of self-protection, and to ask with gentle curiosity times, what brilliant, fragile version of me are you still keeping safe? And is she still in danger, or is she waiting for permission to breathe ***? The goal is not to demolish the inner sanctuary, it is to install a window, to honor the part that learned to be so brilliantly careful while making space for the part that still remembers how to want something without a guarantee. To understand that true resilience isn't just about surviving the worst-case scenario, it's about finally allowing yourself to imagine a better one. You built a fortress. Now see if you can find the key you've been holding all along. So if you recognize this pattern, if your predictions have started to feel like a life sentence, understand this. That faint pull toward an unmapped possibility is not a flaw in your defense system. It is the signal of a self that has outgrown its old protections. The restlessness is not ingratitude for your hard-won safety. It is the sound of a deeper strength stirring, asking the architect if the blueprints can be updated. You are not betraying your wisdom. You are integrating your courage. One silent pause, one breath in the space between the fear and the reflex at a time.